Mike, happy Thursday.
The stream is live. Happy Thursday.
Yes, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, and your favorite platform, Facebook. Um, hey, so Mike, last week we were talking a lot about this direct contact issue where ransomware terrorists, and they are terrorists,
Yep.
are contacting patients or contacting parents and not just the organization. There's debate over whether they're actually trying to make money on this or whether they're trying to, you know, just use that as leverage. But
Well, it's
big,
all about
big,
making money.
yeah, big article in Bloomberg about it that you were involved in.
Yeah. Well, I reached out to Bloomberg and some other, outlets and said, hey, we ought to be talking about this thing. There's a shift in tactics here, and I'm not entirely sure what this means. My money's on they're trying to figure out new ways to monetize these records because there's downward pricing pressure on all the dark markets because they're all flooded with records, right? I mean,
Yep.
there are no records left to steal, man. So, at some point they got to figure out some other way to make money off this stuff. And if extortion isn't working well because people have backups and they can like blow off the ransomware guys, they got to come up with something. And frankly, the real threat is pay us because it'll be cheaper than the class action suit that you're going to get if we make all this public.
Yep. Yep. For
I
sure.
hate to provide that advice but, I mean, for public consumption, but
Hmm.
that would be a better tactic than calling patients up.
Yep. 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 And on a lighter note, you met with students last night.
Oh, I always meet with students. Well, I met with students last night, and I did. That was for Highline College, and they
Nice.
asked me great questions, really great questions. Usually it's like I'll give them a PowerPoint presentation on jobs and cyber,
Hmm.
and all they did was ask me questions, and they were really good.
Good.
Also did the Green River College Curriculum Advisory Board the night before that. So yeah, I do a lot of student stuff.
Awesome. And so a couple of things we're planning, three more panel discussions this month, or sorry, in February and March. One of them is about cyber insurance. Another is about third party risk and bringing down your risk and how to map your risk using a governance risk and compliance tool. And then we're working on one, not really formulated yet, but something came up that makes us really want to do this about insider threats. And if that one works out, we have a really cool guest. I'm excited about that. That one will be phenomenally interesting and have some stuff that I don't know that people have heard before.
Am I
So
going to be on
very
that one?
yeah, we'll have you,
I
but
guess I have
you're
thoughts.
yeah. Oh, but you won't be the main speaker. You'll see. This
It's
is going to be
fine with
pretty.
me.
Yeah. Hey, some big news. This whole back when we were talking about Fred Hutch, which is the cancer care organization in Seattle, we talked about the fact that the bad guys were threatening to SWAT patients. Swatting is becoming a major issue in cybercrime. Mike, this just happened to Jen Easterly,
Yeah.
the head of CISA.
Yes, the director of CISA. And you got to ask yourself, what's the motivation here? And the bigger question to me is, was this done by a domestic actor or somebody in another country? Because it's possible to do it from another country. There are, 10-digit numbers for 911 centers. And if you find out what they are, you can spoof your phone number from the other side of the world and call one. But I think that they would detect, an international call
I don't know. I
trying
mean,
to.
you can also text to 911 now. So somebody could text to 911. Some 911 call centers have apps. I mean,
Yeah, well,
there's all sorts of ways.
this is a problem that needs a solution badly. But again, was this a domestic actor? Because I think what I see is a lot of people going over to the criminal side because basically these criminal organizations have just made it too easy. They provide the infrastructure, the tools, right? You don't even need to know that much. You just need to be able to take some risk. And a lot of Gen Zers apparently are taking this risk. And so, but again, the motivation, what did Jen Easterly do to you? I mean, I see that there's a lot of people that don't like the head of DHS, right? Alejandro Mayorkas, you know, but Jen Easterly. I mean, she's like done nothing but good things, especially in humanizing, this cybersecurity business we're all in. I just
I
I don't get it. I don't I don't get why somebody would have done this.
Are you saying that you can't even imagine a conspiracy theory that involves the head of CISA? Because I can. I don't know what it is, but I certainly can. Go spend some more time on websites that I don't want to go to on my work
Do my own
computer. I don't
research
know.
and I'll find out.
That's right. So, and speaking of, another big thing is, we talk about election security here a lot. We've already seen a Biden deepfake.
Yeah, yeah, and so it was a phone message, a recorded phone message that they sent out to voters. Has said, "Don't cast ballots in the Democratic primary
New
in New
Hampshire.
Hampshire."
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was they wrote in Biden's name. He wasn't even on the ballot, so this was kind of weird. But that call didn't work. But it's troubling now that they faked his voice, and here he is giving a message to voters. And a lot of people cannot discern the difference there because it's kind of hard to do. So you know, it's gloves are off. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, that's that. We said this would happen. Now it's happening. It's
Yeah,
going to happen more. It's just one of those things. And I mean, if you work in an organization, you gotta warn your employees at this point that if they get a call that sounds like
the CEO.
the CEO,
Yeah.
what's going on there. Okay,
Well, the
now,
American Hospital Association actually put out a warning about that very
sure,
thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. All right. Speaking of healthcare, now
Yes.
Jake's favorite story of the week. And you have to understand that this is the mix of two very important stories. Number one, HHS, Health and Human Services, if you're not familiar with the federal acronyms, they lost $7.5 million in what looks like a phishing attack, spear phishing, something. They lost $7.6 million in grant money. Thing number one.
Right.
Thing number two, and this we've been waiting for, and it's big and important, and I don't want the news to get lost in the irony, but they just released what hospitals should be doing for cybersecurity and wagged their finger at all the hospitals and says,
Yeah.
you need better security postures. And the irony of those two things happening in the same week is so thick and so good and so bad. And
Well,
it just,
and I think so misunderstood, actually, right? Because the go-to is, oh, Health and Human Services. When they lost the $7.5 million, they got phished. All right, somebody bid on a phishing message, let somebody into their network, and that person was able to move money somehow. All right, that is, I don't think that is what happened. Here's what I think. So this was 5 NGOs, okay, that were grantees, and Health and Human Services was giving them grant money to go out and help rural health. All right, something we desperately need. What I believe happened is that at those 5 organizations, all 5, and we know that nonprofits don't secure themselves well. They can't, afford to invest in things like that. All 5 had their email systems compromised. Email was surveilled. They probably escalated privileges. They probably got hold of, an admin account, got into the email account of the person that could actually send the message to Health and Human Services and say, we have a new bank, use this routing number for our grant deposits from now on. And they find out $7.5 million later. That's what
I
I think happened. So
Okay,
this is
well,
not.
all right, fine. Ruin
We
the
will see.
story, but
Nobody
I don't
knows.
know.
Yeah, it's all under
But I don't.
investigation right now. They're
I
not saying here's how this happened.
I
That's
don't.
my theory.
You know what?
That's the Occam's razor theory right there.
The Occam's razor theory is that HHS fell for it because that's the simplest explanation. But we'll see.
Mm,
We'll see.
okay. All right.
Now, the very important news that I don't want to get lost is that HHS unveiled what are called CPGs,
Yes. Performance goals. Yes.
cybersecurity performance goals. And they put them in two different categories. They put them in essential and enhanced. The essential are sort of your basic, hey, everybody should have backups, everybody should have 2FA. And then the enhanced are you need EDR, you need MDR, and a whole bunch of things. Jake's opinion here is that I recognize why they have essential and enhanced, but the enemy is already enhanced, and
Mhm.
they should do that. These are voluntary performance goals. There's no fines attached. They're just voluntary. I
And
think we're
there's
gonna
an incentive for implementing them
yeah,
too.
yeah. And I think we're going to end up in a place, Mike, in the future where these are no longer voluntary, no matter how much groups like the American Hospital Association and other lobbying groups fight against it. I think what's going to end up happening is the actual CISOs, CIOs, IT directors for hospitals want there to be penalties. Their bosses
They have
don't,
said that. They have
and they
said that.
do. And
Mhm.
they do.
Please
Um,
regulate us. That's basically what they're saying because it's the only way to get our executive leadership to bust out the money that we need.
That's right. That's right. So in any event, I think that's what we're going to end up seeing here. We're going to talk a lot more about this. If anybody is going to the American Hospital Association Rural Conference, we'll be talking about it there. Come have a chat with me and Jonathan Inskeep, who's joining me there. He's a former CIO of a critical access hospital. So anyway, we will we'll see you there. All right, we got to move on. We got
Hang
more
on, let me
news.
talk about these incentives just for a second here,
Okay. All right.
because what I understand is if you implement these controls, there is a safe harbor for you in that if you have a cyber event later and it can be demonstrated that you weren't implementing, the controls that they said, these are voluntary, you have a safe harbor from regulatory action. Okay, so that is an incentive. Now, I don't know if they can reach all the way over and go, and you were exempted from class action lawsuits, right? Because that's a whole different part of the legal system, and it's not regulatory. So, we'll have to see exactly how this safe harbor thing works out. But that's the incentive they're implying. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, we could go on for hours and hours, but there's a lot more. Um, uh, One of the other big news that happened this week, Mike, Microsoft had a
Got
breach.
whacked.
Yeah,
Yes.
what happened there?
So they used a password spraying attack and found out that a Microsoft executive had reused the password, and were able to get into Microsoft's network and surveil executive email. To what end? I don't know. But it's a bit of a black eye for Microsoft,
Um,
and
and
specifically their legal teams is what they were surveilling too, which I think is interesting.
well, I mean, not surprising for a number of reasons, but
Well, and it's Microsoft, how do you legally go take down criminal infrastructure? Because that is a legal thing that they do when they take over, somebody's domain name and they, black hole that thing with DNS,
yeah, yeah,
sinkhole it.
but I mean, and the legal team has also been involved in the SEC guidelines, and one of the things that came out was they reported this to the SEC in a filing, even though maybe they didn't have to. So there's a lot in that one. If you haven't read that one, hey, a lot of our clients are public sector clients.
Yep,
Another really important story for them, cyber attacks not going down, in fact, going up, what, 40% in 2022?
40%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is primarily local government. It's also state, but it's primarily local government. And the uh, not only government agencies but law practices, and I don't know why
Mhm.
they bundled those two things together. They had the largest spike in ransomware attacks, and I think this is globally, of 95% in Q3 of 2023. So they're still tallying things up, I think, for Q4, and we're going to find out more. um, and compared to the same period in 22, uh, up 95%. So, you know, year on year, this is not looking good for local government. So, and again, local government and hospitals both have trouble making investments in security and need the most help. So, thanks, federal government, for the state local cyber grant program.
Yes. Which, the money should be flowing, and, it depends on your state, of course, but,
Yeah.
speaking of flowing,
Ah, yes.
water sector.
That's
Uh,
again. Yeah. Again.
yeah, so another new set of guidelines for the water sector. Why another one?
Well, these guidelines are not about here, have all these controls in place and multi-factor authentication and manage your remote access. This is all about how to detect and analyze incidents, how to contain them, eradicate them, right? Go through the process of incident response, because that, I think, is a limitation in the water sector, right? It's not a whole bunch of IT professionals, it's a bunch of people that came up through the trades, and so they haven't been exposed to things like this. So, crisp guidance on how to respond to incidents and how to contain those quickly. And I hate to say it, but put out the fire in the water utility, before it gets out of control. And of course,
Don't you mean plug the dam?
okay, whatever. you know, and a water utility, a big one, just got hit by a ransomware attack.
Which
Uh,
one?
it's called Viola North America, and I don't know exactly where they are, but
Okay.
it what it's impacted really is parts of its municipal water division and its ability to take payments.
Okay.
So I don't know that water distribution has really been impacted, but this is very new and they're still working this out. So when law enforcement and the forensics teams, finally say here's what went down, we'll see if it was attempt really to disrupt the infrastructure or if it was just an extortion attempt.
Right. Right. My bet is on the latter, but we'll
Yep.
see. All right,
Yep.
Mike, what do you got for threats and vulns?
Microsoft 365 accounts are under active attack from something called Androx Ghost, and with the way it's spelled, it's going to be hard to Google, but check it out. That's happening right now.
Mhm.
GitLab servers have been exposed to a zero-click CVSS score of 10 account takeover attacks. So if you're a Git user, then better Google that up. TeamViewer, right? Remote management monitoring tool, the breaching networks with that in new attacks. And a lot of this is password grinding. And we're seeing, I look at a lot of Pisces data, there's password grinding going on like crazy right now.
Mhm.
There's new Docker malware that will steal your CPU to do crypto mining and drive fake website traffic. There's a Mac OS backdoor. If you are prone to using pirated software, you're probably going to get smacked by that because that's how it's being applied.
Mhm.
Um, there's a VMware 0 day that has been under attack by Chinese hackers for 2 years. That one's a 9.8 score. So, and there's the Avanti thing going on, which is another global attack. And they said,
Mhm.
patch this, patch this, patch this. And now hundreds of organizations, this is like the move it file transfer thing. This will be soon out of control. There will be lawsuits. There will be ransomware. Um, Atlassian Confluence is apparently that got targeted, and we've said this before, nearly immediately after it was announced that you need to patch Confluence, they
Mhm.
started attacking it. So, they're
Of
watching.
course. Yep.
And then there's this thing about this Vex Trio. And this is a very interesting story. And Google this up, VEXTRIO. It's a traffic distribution system. They don't actually do the criming. They're always rerouting, where the infrastructure is, and something gets taken down. They immediately, use another part of that infrastructure. They call this the single largest, most pervasive, most persistent threat that we have in customer networks. They say they find this everywhere. And apparently they have 70,000 nodes in this thing. So that's what we're up against.
Yep. 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 Um. So, you missed one.
What did I miss?
Patch Chrome.
Oh, patch Chrome. Yeah. Well, I mean, they haven't said patch Chrome, but just do it anyway.
Just patch Chrome. Just
Yeah.
patch Chrome. All right. So at the end of all of these, we have the kicker, the thing that Mike comes up with to make us all smile. Mike, I have one,
You
and
have
then you get
one.
one.
Yours is probably funny. Mine is not funny. Mine is a warning.
All right. What's yours? What do you got?
Okay. So I know from my experience in the public sector that law enforcement runs on grant money a lot. And they can go to technology conferences with fistfuls of the stuff and buy things that they don't really understand how to use. And there is an example of this that's just come up. So the police used DNA to predict what a suspect's face would look like. And then they tried to run facial recognition on that. And of course, it all fell on its face, and now they just got, a black eye from trying to mix and match technologies in unintended ways using untested algorithms to single out suspects based on unknowable criteria, right? That's because of the proliferation of technology and surveillance technologies and things like that, and the lack of ethical guidelines around things like that. Yeah, they're going to be misused.
That's
It's not funny.
uh,
I know it's not funny.
all right. All right.
I
So I
got to
got
get
one.
another funny one, but I wanted to talk about that.
Okay. All right. Fine. I feel like you didn't really have a kicker today. All right. So in Washington State, the Washington State AG figured out that grocery stores were price fixing rotisserie chickens
Good God.
and that people were being overcharged for rotisserie chickens. So sued. I can't remember whether won the suit or there was a settlement. I think it was a settlement. Anyway, everybody who is at a certain income level gets $120 if they bought a rotisserie chicken for
No,
a household.
you kidding?
$120 for a household. Yeah, you get a check for $120.
If you can prove you bought a chicken.
Yeah. And so checks have been arriving at people's houses. The chicken checks.
The chicken checks.
But let me ask you something. With all of the warnings out there, if a check arrived in the mail that said it was from the government and said it was a chicken check, would you think it was real for $120?
I would check it out because immediately I would think, yeah, this is some kind of scam or
Right,
something.
right. And so
It's
people
money
aren't
laundering or
and so
something.
people aren't cashing them. And now the AG's office is buying ads to tell people that the chicken checks are real.
The chicken credit in Washington State is a thing. Wow. Okay, that is
Anyway,
pretty funny.
yeah. See? That Mike, that's what a kicker should look like.
Okay,
The chicken checks.
the chicken checks.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
We've shown that I'm funnier than and it's a big surprise to everybody.